When your mind is in medium speed, it doesn't need that. It doesn't need to be calmed down. It doesn't need to be stimulated. It is calm and focused. That's a free mind, calm and focused. A captive mind is enslaved by something that calms it down and stimulates it simultaneously because it's out in the extremes. Then what happens is your mind feels uncomfortable. You feel anxious, you feel stressy, you feel shame, you feel guilt. Social anxiety is so prevalent when it comes to porn use. You feel low self-worth. Self-value is down. Self-esteem decreases. Your mind is not a happy, comfortable place to be. And it needs to be soothed. It wants to feel better. So your mind is the tool that's not being used well. It's being used for self-deprecation and not feeling enough. And it needs to be self-soothed from those negative feelings about oneself and others and life in the world around, which is a terrible place to be. So that uncomfortable mind necessitates self-soothing. And I promise you, I'm getting to the free mind. This is the captive mind. This is the brain pattern of porn addiction and the captivity that the mind feels, which then enslaves the body to follow the mind. And the body acts out and clicks the easy button to get porn going, to get that dopamine release flooding the brain, and couples it with masturbation to make it feel even better with high levels of mental and physical stimulation. So the body and the mind are not being used well. That is a captive mind and body that is enslaved by pornography and that underlying brain pattern that needs to be self-soothed from discomfort or pain from the past. And it could be unresolved trauma, or it could be discomfort, pain, or anguish or stress from the present, depending upon what you have going on. So for many people, it's pain from the past that has not been resolved. Also with stress that is not being handled well in the present. And porn's become the stress reliever because you taught your brain to use it as a stress reliever when you were young. So that is the captive mind. What's the free mind? What's the free brain pattern? The free mind uses a brain performance pattern in the middle. It uses medium speed that feels good, calm focus. It is the zone, it's flow state. It's one of my favorite places to be where thoughts are coming, but you don't feel squirrely and all over the place. If you remember the movie Hoodwinked, one of my favorite movies from when the kids were young, it's actually super funny because it has a lot of adult humor in it, but it's a kid's cartoon, you know how that goes, but it's pretty funny. In there is a squirrel who is all over the place, and that reminds me of, the opposite of this free mind. A captive mind is bouncing all over the place like the squirrel who just can't get enough, and who's always overwhelmed, overstimulated, and he needs to be calmed down, and he also is looking for excessive stimulation. When your mind is in medium speed, it doesn't need that. It doesn't need to be calmed down. It doesn't need to be stimulated. It is calm and focused. That's a free mind, calm and focused. A captive mind is enslaved by something that calms it down and stimulates it simultaneously because it's out in the extremes. So a free mind is free to thrive and to be able to accomplish anything you want. So a free mind is what I like to call thrival. Yeah, I know it's not a word, but it's the opposite of survival. The pendulum effect, the captive mind, is in survival mode. So when you were young, you learned to survive, and you needed to survive when you were young. So you're captive to, I just have to survive. So here's one takeaway for today. Do you still need to survive? Are you still caught up in just surviving? If you are, you gotta fix that. I'm sorry to tell you. Survival mode is, I just get things done at the last minute and I just keep surviving. And a lot of people think they have ADHD. They're just stuck in survival mode because that's what they've learned to do across their lifetime. And if your brain is stuck in the pendulum effect in the extremes, that's all it can handle. It can only handle surviving. And I'm going to talk in a minute a little bit further about that. When you're in thrival mode, you can be creative, You can implement new things. You can set goals and set small objectives and obtain them and feel great doing it. You're in flow, you're in the zone. You can work hard, you can play hard, you can go do all the things that you need to do in your life, and then you can come home and relax from it. It's amazing. That's the place I want people to be. But your brain has to be in that medium speed to be able to get into flow and into focus and to be able to implement those things. It has to come out of survival mode. Survival mode is a loop. It's just a loop. It keeps you spinning your wheels and it keeps you stuck. Thrival mode is an upward spiral, and it's an amazing place to be. Okay, so now let's think about survival brain mode, captive mind, versus thrival brain mode, which is a free mind, and what that has to do with extension and projection. So let's start with survival, and let's think about how survival mode, the pendulum effect, anxiety, overwhelm, how it creates the projection of shame and pain. So if you don't feel good on the inside, and especially if you had an 8-hour binge last night and you feel transparent, like people can see that on you, and now you show up and you have to interact with a new colleague at work who's a woman, you're having a hard time with eye contact, it's because of that feeling inside of shame and that feeling inside of pain, and you project it out from you. And it creates the behaviors of the mind and the body. You don't feel well. You don't feel like enough. You might get in an argument with someone because you're projecting that internal pain out to that person. You see things as attacking you, and you feel like people are insulting you because you're always on red alert for pain or for anything that's coming at you to harm you. When you're always looking for things that harm you, you find things, whether they actually were intended to harm you or not. You're in survival mode. You're looking for things that you might have to survive from. Hypervigilance. And so, like, for one example, if you have a partner and your partner says something, it becomes an argument because you automatically perceive the comment as, I'm not enough. And it's because you're feeling not enough on the inside. It's projected out onto your partner's comment, coming back at you, even though that's maybe wasn't intended at all. So when your brain is in a different mode and you're feeling good from the inside, your value is intact because you're on purpose. And the way out is to get on purpose and to create those goals. When you feel good and you know you've spent your day being on purpose in your work, you've spent your day being good to other people, not just in a self-pleasure loop. You've spent your day giving and enjoying it. And you've spent your day doing hobbies or activities that you like to do. And you are fired up, you're jazzed up about life. You're exuding love. When you do that, you extend that happiness and joy and love out from you. And you're literally extending it out from you. These different feelings that I'm talking about correlate to the two brain patterns that I'm talking about. Survival mode, pendulum effect. Thrival mode, medium, optimal speed. So when you're in survival mode and you're using the pendulum effect, your electromagnetic field, the field of energy around you, resonates at a very low resonance frequency, 20. That's the lowest it can get. When you're resonating at 20, that's a negative energy field. People feel it. If you've ever been around someone and you've walked away like, that dude's got a problem, that person is emitting low resonance energy field because of the way that their brain is performing. It literally goes out from you. It's projected out from you, not only in the way that you talk and the way you use your mind by sharing your thoughts, or by using your body, by using your eyes to check people out in projection, because you're looking for dopamine hits with your eyes to offset the pain inside. It's also electromagnetically shot out from your body. Basically, you create a field around you, and our fields attune to each other. We will pick up people's energy fields. When you're using medium speed, thrival mode, optimal brain mode, you're exuding the positive energy up near 500. The energy of love and peace and happiness, and that's coming off of you. And you don't even have to say a word. People can feel it.